So I have what is undoubtedly one of the most controversial topics that has ever faced gamers and everyone. And I decided to upload this as standalone because I think the nature of it is enough that I don't want to include it in my podcast where I do other sort of smaller discussions and talk about various topics there. But given that I am a gamer at heart, I feel like I need to explain where I stand on this topic specifically, which is why casual and not hardcore. And there's quite a few different reasons. So I'll start with, unfortunately, sort of mild trauma dumping. I won't say the details exactly, but it ties to the hardships I've had in life and where it got me. Some including violence, some including my own unfortunate doings, which I've regretted. And it's led to me trying to become a better person, and that led me down a path of redemption and almost serenity within the confines of wholesome and anxiety and stuff. But that's another topic. Where it led me in the end is that when I was playing games, I wanted to do something with them. I either wanted to be good at them or just simply enjoy them or collect things. And that became a priority for me. As far as I know, it didn't really start until I'd say about 2018, 2016 maybe. Because I used to be a big T-Fortress 2 player, I played like Burnout Paradise when I was a kid, I played GTA San Andreas as a kid, which wasn't casual at all. It was actually very difficult. But I have been around the place, essentially, in terms of games and topics, and it led me to a lot of good places and some bad places here and there. It really varies, a lot of the games I've been through. But T-Fortress 2 was one of my main games, and I played that kind of seriously. All the way from childhood until adulthood, I was a pretty serious gamer on there. And that naturally had me sort of entwined in that sort of sphere and trying to get it done. But it also came with its own caveats as well. Because I was basically playing with death in a way. Well, it sounds strange, but I literally was. Because the game itself was very controversial, and it got more controversial as I got older with more politics around the world and so on. You get the story. But I think things really got stranger when I started to get into meeting other friend groups and getting to know them. And strangely enough, some of these friend groups were dodgy in their own way. And I'm not happy that I met them because, to be honest, some of them weren't decent people. In fact, they're quite arseholey and just dodgy. But other times it's like, they could be good, but it just wasn't the right gang to hang around. There's also like a case where actually I ended up grouping up with them in a TF2 competitive match, and like right after we joined they said, okay, let's turn on the aimbot. And everyone but me was using it. I was like, okay, great. I feel fucking bad for this. I think I even apologised to the enemy team. I can't remember if I did that or not. I swear I did something like that at some point. But yeah, like this the thing with these sort of games, it gets competitive and then players want to climb up the ranks or just ruin it for everyone else, which was, well, one of the cases that happened. And it's sort of spiraled out of control. I wasn't into that myself. In fact, moving on to a game like GTA 5 and Counter-Strike, I didn't like Counter-Strike much. Not CSGO rather. But GTA 5 Online, it's its own niche thing, and I couldn't really enjoy that myself. It had a variety of issues, and not including the microtransactions, but it also had the cheater issue, and that forced me to essentially obtain a menu and try to counteract them. And also make my own fun as well, because the game wasn't giving me what I wanted, what I needed for that matter as well. So I was forced to play my hand, and so I started crashing other cheaters' games and making sure they weren't harming lobbies, and just messing around with random spawns that were created in the menu itself. So yeah, it became very interesting. So what else is there? What's it doing? It's unscripted and it's typing. What do I even say? So yeah, I got past that phase eventually. I quit GTA, and I moved on to other things in the end because it just wasn't much there for me anymore, and I was fed up of it. So I had to change, obviously, to better suit my needs, and went back to TF2. So that became a thing again, you know. And then Overwatch came out not long after, and I thought, might as well give this a try since everyone else is doing it. And I ended up falling in love with it. In fact, I considered it better than Team Fortress 2. And that says a lot, really. But this was back when there wasn't any balancing, and competitive was a shit game mode. But as I started to play that more and put all my time into it, it started to become apparent that I was getting very serious about it. I wanted to climb to Diamond, and technically I could have climbed it. Got to like 298 or so, 2,980, that's how the rating went. But one game short, we lost that, and it's because of just the team dominating us. The enemy team is possibly a Smurf as well, which is also a problem in these games, which I'll get into later, I think, hopefully, if I remember. But yeah, it's a big issue. It's something that really affected the game, and on top of the game having a collection system with like loot boxes, unfortunately, but having the skins and stuff was appealing, and that was the main thing, and I wanted to get all the golden weapons. So that became one of the priorities for me. Even meant buying skins during events. But I ended up sort of playing the game for hours and hours on end, so I can accumulate the right amount of credits per patch, like 27,000 was a soft spot. Good luck getting that, to be honest. Because the amount of loot boxes you get from leveling and stuff, and also being lucky with legendaries, is quite few and far between. So it is quite a grind in itself. That isn't recommended, especially if they're adding it again. Apparently they are in the year of 2026. Yeah, trying to think what's the other thing. So it's saying scripted, but I don't really have any choice. It's just something that came on randomly in my head. So during that time there were updates to Overwatch. This was back in the Jeff Kaplan days, and it was improving in some ways, but also regressing in others, because they started adding balance changes, started making it more competitive, and released new heroes which were controversial. I remember the Sombra announcement, and then the Sombra release, and how shit she was. Eventually we got new heroes, and they were improving slowly but surely, but still weren't perfect, some weren't balanced as fuck. There weren't many great things about Overwatch at that point, anyway, other than the event skins, which tended to get a refresh every now and then, a few new additions. It depended on the sort of event it was, a seasonal event. And there's a fly here, so fuck off. Okay. So that thing's been living here for at least a fucking week now. Need to get rid of it, I think. Yeah, where was I? So yeah, lots of updates, and eventually I was getting into other games like Heroes of the Storm, and at some point I decided to give World of Warcraft a try. I was getting really depressed at this point because I also had a mental health crisis during it, And this crisis was severe enough that I needed to go on antidepressants, which was so short, didn't work, didn't even last a week. So, yeah, so there's a lot of issues there. I guess the next thing that happened after that was getting into World of Warcraft. And this is another part of my story, because I was already toxic enough in like Overwatch, and realising that I was too toxic, that's the other thing. I started to realise, why the fuck am I doing this? Just for comparative points for golden weapons that don't even really look that good. That's just no point. So it didn't make sense to keep going. And it's thanks to someone calling me out on it. I have stories about this on my channel. But I realised that I don't even know the people who I'm being toxic towards, and that can either backfire or just be really scummy. And yeah, I was a scumbag for it. I take accountability for that, and obviously I'm ashamed of it. So it does quite heavily weigh on me and ties into sort of redemption thing. And this was at the same time as my mental health issues, so naturally I felt like changing for the better. And World of Warcraft, weirdly enough, was a step in the right direction, and after sort of having a moment online where I removed a bunch of my friends, also sort of made new accounts as well for certain places, I moved on a bit, and friends eventually got back to me, which is interesting. They just added me out of the blue. I'm wondering where I was and what's happening. Which is a nice thought, for sure. I was exactly pleased about it myself, because I just really wanted to be left alone. Yeah, there was an argument sort of started to an extent, I'm not sure exact details. I was not in a good state at that point, and eventually I got on to playing classic World of Warcraft. And this was interesting because I'm not going to go into details about how I got there, but it was interesting because this was like a popular server, and it was basically the old experience of World of Warcraft. Is a completely original experience, and that was an interesting place to start, because I wasn't used to MMOs, I didn't know how to do it, and in terms of accessibility it wasn't amazing. In fact, a lot of the time it was my friend guiding me through it, so that contributed to, well, some of the issues I had with the game. And at some point got to, I forgot where it was, it's a place before Gadget Zan, is it? The one in the desert? I can't remember. Thousand Winds? For some reason that comes to mind. Fuck, I can't remember. Thousand Canyons, I can't remember. But it was at some point there, and I started to realise I wasn't really enjoying this. I remember logging in once to get an item that I was asked to get, and I ended up having to PvP in that, and I fucking lost by fucking hair. It's just nuts. And yeah, it's kind of embarrassing as well, because it obviously has some devastating effects in terms of the gameplay itself, so that wasn't great. But I just decided in the end that this wasn't for me. I didn't like it, and that ties into this problem, as I said. So it just ends up being such a weird and awkward situation. I couldn't enjoy it, so I had to stop, and I did get some sort of responses to that, which definitely were asking me to stay, but I couldn't. It was genuinely making me miserable, and I just wanted to have fun with other games. I didn't want to focus on this because it seemed difficult. It seemed like anything I did could be a mistake, and I think I remember there were sometimes players who were kind of toxic towards me because I wasn't good at it. I was pulling things randomly without realising. I think I didn't have many spells either, so that created so many issues. I was playing Warlock, I think. So it caused quite a few problems for me. And not the best time either. As I said, mental health crisis. So eventually I quit, and I was watching the Orchestra one day on the Twitch channel, and surprisingly they were playing World of Warcraft, but they were in a very unfamiliar looking place, which happened to be Mr. Pandora. They were playing Retail WoW. So I hopped on that, and I ended up falling in love with it for the leveling experience, a few stories that you got. There was a lot of FOMO in it, unfortunately, because of the, well, things you've actually missed. There's a lot of things missing in it, like stories and stuff. But it had a decent amount of content, and I played it for quite a while. I got a lot of characters to max level, I did some of the endgame. I was mainly a casual player in that, and whenever I got into something like heroic raiding, or sometimes normal raiding was difficult in itself. I remember doing normal, actually. Normal... Oh, what's that one underwater? Najjatar? But that raid in that area, I remember doing that with my first ever guild in it. Also appeared in a Drama Time video in Breach's Drama Time video series. I did submit it myself, but it got for some reason more redacted, so it confused things, and they removed details as well. So it didn't get the full story, but anyway, it was in that. But yeah, this was a normal raid group, and there was so much fucking drama around it. It was like relationship drama, there's gameplay drama as well. It was a fucking disaster. And at that point I was starting to realise, maybe I shouldn't do this raid, maybe I should just leave. And eventually I did, just not worth it. We didn't get to the end, but it just wasn't worth the fucking hassle. For a normal raid as well, like, Jesus Christ. It is a bit embarrassing. But we did move on eventually. And then what happened, I think, because I stuck around the game for a while and collected things, I pretty much never touched it again. Only did Raid Finder, and I think that was it. I think I had to do it for some quests as well. But not until the end boss, which is good. I would have dreaded that. Yeah, and then eventually I found a new guild, and Nihilo was one of the next patches, I think. Like the final patch, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, with new guild, new stuff, and I was starting to realise again, as we were doing heroic raiding this time, because we aced the normal raid, we encountered some problems in that. And pretty famously, the story that I have from this is we got to the second to last part of the heroic raid, and we're just about to beat the last boss on that, with a lot of issues in between. Our raid leader was great, and it was controversial and problematic for everyone, and in general I think the raid itself was the tier gear. It was so bad. It was a fucking disaster again. And what ended up happening was the raid leader decided to quit the same day that we failed that. So like, okay, I can't do this, I've got responsibilities I have to take care of, which I imagine might be a lie, but I could be wrong. I remember waking up the next morning and we're about to do the raid, I think, or something. No, not morning. It would have been evening. There was like a schedule for a raid, and then in the morning, got up, logged on. Raid leader, the ex-raid leader rather, somehow messaged me out of the blue and just said, hey, you want to join the heroic raid? Well, like 9 out of 10 or something, however many bosses it was. Like they were near the end, literally on the end bit, the final boss. And so I decided to join that. It was a random of like 10 players per group, and we did it in like an hour or two, which was really interesting. So I got the Head of the Curve achievement, and at that point I was like, you know what, I'm done here. Like, fuck it. Wait and see what Shadowlands is like. And, well, Shadowlands came around, I hated it. All my predictions came right. So yeah, that's the weird thing about that, people don't realise it. I predicted it long before it fucking came out, and I was right. Nobody listened, and I got mocked for it. Yeah, it was gonna be shit. We all knew the gearing system was bad, we all knew a lot of things, but anyway. Basically, I didn't like Shadowlands and I just didn't want to get into it in the end. And I started to realise this wasn't a casual game anymore because of the meta revolving around borrowed power, essentially, with, let's say, more of that. The governance system and just the terrible accessibility and also the difficulty of things, like fucking hell. I couldn't believe the difficulty on some of the bits of content there was. You know, as if timing Mythic Plus wasn't bad enough, there's also this bloody extra stuff to do with the covenants. And that was just unpleasant. I didn't understand the reason for it. So yeah, after that I started to realise I just need to give up on this and started playing other games. I tried to play other single player games in between and got on almost some of them, but not all of them. I think I even played some older games, replayed some, and eventually I got around to 2020 and it's Genshin Impact, and I actually kind of liked it. It's actually 2021, I think, but eventually I quit that game as well, and it's because it became more of a hardcore game. I'll get onto the casual stuff as well, and why I converted from that. But I also tried to play other games in between. I got into single player games, I tried ymck, I didn't like that. It's too difficult in the end. And then I tried Deep Rock Galactic, which was a very interesting game. I also played Final Fantasy XIV a bit, quit it first, but then got back into it much later, and it ended up being a casual paradise. But Deep Rock Galactic was a really interesting case because it was recommended by a friend. And my friend wanted me to get into the higher hazard levels, which I struggled with and still do to this day to an extent. I think I can do it now more than I could back then, but still, I get a lot of anxiety, so it's not worth the effort, it's not worth the hassle. It turns out I have panic disorder, so that explains a lot. And that's one of the biggest things with games like this. I can't really deal with that sort of thing. It ends up creating problems for me. So yeah, that's a no-go, that's for sure. What else is there? I'm trying to think. How could I even talk about I got distracted again. Yeah, Deep Rock, I started playing on like lower hazard levels and made my way up, but hazard 3 is like the comfort zone, in my opinion. It seemed to be the best place for me. So that ended up being a thing. Yeah, it's very weird, but that did end up being the case. And I've stuck with it ever since. I've tried Hazard 4 on and off, but I just can't enjoy it. It's a bit too hectic for me. I don't mind the amount of swarms, like enemies you get. I don't mind the amount, or even the types. It doesn't bother me. It's just when you die so quickly, it's really fucking leaving me on edge, and I can't handle that. It's really bad. Yeah. So I think from there I also got so much experience, I ended up sort of acing a lot of the game parts anyway. That I could do an elite deep dive without dying eventually, and I improved over time. Certainly that aspect going for me, whatever. And I tended to not play it after I got the things I needed, which was the matrix cores for the overclock system. And after that, after I collected everything, including cargo crates and the lost backpacks, I moved on to just playing modded. And modded was really fun, depending on what you got. So you can get modded lobbies where there's more dwarfs, which can be fun in its own way. But you also get ones where they're customised and highly customisable. And that means that players will have this idea of what can be done there and what is playable and stuff. But as in, they can add secondary objectives. Sometimes it's a bit cheaty though, that's the only problem. They can add any mod they want. They can put cave leeches on a goo bomber. It's all sorts of fun. And that's why I'm drawn to them. It's more casual fun, and that's one of the things with the game that's so amazing. It is a casual experience all the way through. You play how you want, and you can still get it done, even in a relatively good time. And there's no FOMO. So the game treats you right, and that's been one of my favourite games of all time because of it. And it still ages incredibly well, even despite some of the RRL controversies with like the merge and stuff. It still draws me to it. Even then, there's a patch tomorrow, and I'm playing that. And I started this back in 2022, I'd like to say. Yeah, I think it was, or 2023 maybe. But I've been here for a few years. And I've loved it every minute of it. There's been some miserable moments, but that's only because of bad players or just bad old toxic players. It really depends. But it's been fairly good for the most part. I can't really like doubt it. I can't say that it's terrible. So yeah. So where am I now? Final Fantasy XIV, I moved on to that, and it has a mix of hardcore content and the casual content, which is also kind of a dream thing for me, because I do kind of like that sort of aspect, but at the same time I don't really like hardcore content. So it's a bit difficult. Yeah, I don't know where to stand here really. So I pretty much touched on everything I can in terms of this topic. It's a struggle, but I need to go into why specifically I can identify why I moved from obviously hardcore gaming competitiveness to a more casual experience, and why some hardcore experiences lead me to get frustrated. I think a lot of it ties to mental health and trauma, as I said in the beginning. That's quite a bit of it. And that ends up shaping a lot of what I believe. I remember not being able to complete bosses in games that I used to play, like, what was it? Like Sonic Heroes. I remember not being able to progress that. I think I mentioned it actually. Sonic Heroes, Team Rose. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have. But that's like the earliest experience of not liking a difficult game. And when I realised in Overwatch when I was getting extremely frustrated, and even like a game like Just Cause 3, which was, to be honest, to do with the lag, it wasn't to do with anything else. It's actually a decent game when I replayed it, but yeah, so that's the thing. There's different things that cause these issues here, and I see many people play the Souls-like games, and I think you're getting really frustrated with this. Why are you even doing this to yourself? And it's extremely weird. I don't really understand the logic behind it, to be honest. It's a very bizarre scenario. I've never been able to understand it, because people get frustrated, they waste time with this, and I'm thinking, couldn't you be doing something better? It's ironic me, a gamer, saying that, but literally I wonder where the fun is. Where, like, is it even an accomplishment if it's not fun? I genuinely do not understand, and I struggle with that. I've even played games on easier difficulties because I just don't find them fun when they are difficult. I played Doom Eternal on normal, I played Sniper Elite on easy, for example. And that's because they're the only ways I can make the game fun. But I think I even played Devil May Cry on easy difficulty, like the remake, I mean, not the actual core games. I didn't like the core games at all. Kind of shit, in all honesty. I couldn't get along with it. But again, it's like more proof that I'm just more built for casual games. Ones where I don't have to take it seriously and I don't have to be super hardcore. It's even like the Pokemon games, I forgot to mention them. The Gen 6 games I was introduced to in college, I first played those. They're my first ever games. Yeah, it might surprise people, but I was never into Pokemon until that point. And I realised actually this world was actually amazing. Watched the entire anime, pretty much swooped that in a few months. It was like Gen 6 back then. Eventually Gen 7, which is the best anime. And the games as well were actually really good. I was surprised by Ultrasun, the one I've played. And that's probably still my favourite Pokemon game, but Pokemon Let's Go came out as kind of meh. And Pokemon Shield came out as Sword and Shield. Didn't like it. It wasn't because it was difficult, it was actually quite easy, as you could expect. But the graphics were embarrassing. So that's where I'm at with that. It's just complication upon complication, like with Pokemon. And I'm always in this constant, I don't know, like inner turmoil, is that the term? I'm kind of like, I want to be competitive in this, but also don't want to. But it's like a more casual competitive game, weird enough. It's almost like chess, where you have to think not just a few moves ahead, but every move possible that someone can have. So like Pokemon literally has learnable moves that are, I don't know, like, I don't know how many there are technically for each Pokemon. Probably something like 20 to 50 or something crazy. Now like TMs and stuff which actually help with that. But that's the point. Pokemon was more casual, and that's what I sort of more oriented myself towards that. And eventually I also gained some hobbies as well, which I wanted to fulfill. I wanted to become a decent artist. I wouldn't want to become like the best artist, that was the point. I wanted to make basic anime stuff, and that was it. I sort of achieved it. And to be honest, I don't want to improve at this point, I just want to make my outlines better. That's all I care about. But even then, I wanted to do music eventually as well. So I started doing music too, which took up a lot of my time, and now I have a routine. I do 2 hours of music a day and 1 hour of artwork, and the artwork can tie in other hobbies which are like TV, not music, I do that, but at a different time. Listen to music rather. Also watch movies, and it gets 2 things done at once, and it's honestly been great for me doing that. But that also means that the games I play, the time I have to play games is much more reduced. And that was a sacrifice I became willing to make, because I was realising I was putting too much time into games. And if there were a situation like in the UK where, for example, like disability benefits were being threatened to be taken away, I'd need a way to essentially get some money, even if just a bit. So having the experience to do these hobbies and fulfill them as best as I can really does benefit me. And that's mainly why I do it as well. It's also partly the result. I look for the result in these things and try to make it interesting. And I've also taken up writing again. I used to do it for, what do you call it? I can't remember. Yeah, fanfiction, that's it. Yeah, a bit cringe, but yeah, that's essentially what I did start on. And I actually made some more since then. But I wasn't proud of, obviously, it being more fanfiction, and I decided to make things that were a bit different and make my own worlds. And I was inspired by things that inspired me. So I could do shows like The Simpsons, or even recently South Park, which has inspired an entirely different series, which can actually intertwine with the one I originally made. That's fucking crazy. And this is all because I put less time into games. And even then, this is the other thing, I don't think people realise this, but you don't have to spend all day on the game to be good at it. There's this misconception that you need to do that to get really skillful, to get better at aiming, to even complete challenges. In my experience, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't do anything. I've taken breaks from games and then come back almost like I've been playing it for more than I should be. And it's really strange. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. What do I even add there? So that's mainly why I become casual and just the thing with hardcore is I just don't like setting myself up for a challenge. I don't have anything to prove. I don't want the prestige or anything. And that's where a lot of conflict comes in, where I play games like Final Fantasy XIV or Genshin Impact I used to play, I don't like it anymore. It's the gacha and the fucking terrible updates. It's been disaster after disaster. Started to realise as well it's exploiting me, so yeah, better get away from that. But I used to enjoy the casual content, but they started making it hardcore and I started not enjoying it. And because it's so hardcore, it's like, I don't want to have anything to do with this at all. I don't like how Genshin is more oriented towards the end game, which is like Spiral Abyss and even Local Legends, which were a thing added in that, and even Fontaine, actually, Fontaine did it. But the other thing, you have Final Fantasy XIV, the story's great, a lot of the content is great. Hang on, if you can see the flight. Bye bye. I think it's flew away. So, what was I saying? Final Fantasy XIV, yeah, there's a lot of content in that. But it really depends on what you want to do, and mount collecting is a bit difficult because of how far you have to go and where. There's difficulties in obtaining it. If you do like a Savage Raid, you have to be really lucky and also really skilled as well. So that complicates things a lot. Certainly doesn't make it casual, I will say that. It also takes a lot of, I guess, will to even get there, and patience too, for sure. So it ends up creating a lot of issues in terms of that, and it does make me dislike it in a way. That's the complication I end up facing. And the other thing I realised a few years ago was when I played difficult games, and also if it's multiplayer and got sort of roasted for it, I'd often get sort of depressed. It even ties to another bit of trauma actually in Team Fortress 2 when I used to be playing Man vs Machine. Weirdly enough, I sort of improved my attitude in this one situation. I was trying to help someone who was struggling with upgrades because I was expecting them. Found their upgrades were crap. I said, hey, you know you can get this and it helps, right? Then someone with 10,000 fucking hours in the game said, no, you can't tell my friend what to do. It just sounded like, fuck, what do I do to deserve that? It's just, it's so fucking ridiculous, and these people exist. That's a weird thing. It's before I could have sort of dismissed them, like, oh, you're screaming down a mic, whatever. I've seen clips of that. And eventually it's like, oh, well, they do exist. I thought they were these mythical creatures. So I was like, not really. So, naturally I'm just defeated in that sense. I don't have anything to prove, and it's quite upsetting when I am the problem as well, when I am the fucking paperweight. It's just dead weight rather than not paperweight. Paperweight would be more useful than dead weight. But I've had that in Final Fantasy XIV as well when I tried P8S, which is a very difficult raid. Probably the hardest one, but P12S was a bit easier in some ways, but harder in others. I managed that in 2 days, and I was lucky to get them out in the first day. They cleared it. Second day rather, cleared it. So the first clear technically. But P8S, it took a few clears, but that was with a good group. It took me 2 weeks to fucking beat that. And the first ever group I did was saying like HC, and I didn't know what that meant. Of course it means hardcore, and they was talking about like another phase in that, and I didn't understand, I was new to this. So I was a bit confused naturally, and got through the first phase some fucking how. No idea how, because it seems impossible to do that. I'm not sure if it's like a guide that helps, but phase 2, natural alignment, that shit was getting confusing. Even just the tethers at the beginning, where you just split into 4 groups and hold these things off to soak them, and then move into 3 groups so you can soak these things. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is not casual, and I just hated it. And that experience was so defeating that from that first raid, someone actually went around and said to block me because I was really bad. All for not knowing mechanics and not knowing HC, and even then, I've seen players who've completed it who don't still know how to do it. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time, wasting your life, going around saying, I can't play the game, block me? It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, that's just what leads me to wanting a casual experience. I don't have the time for these sorts of dickheads. They're honestly players that should be banned. I did report it actually because that bothers me a lot. It's provable that I was blacklisted because I was in someone's group, someone joined, someone said like, oh, it's you, and then somehow got kicked, couldn't join the group again. Obviously it seemed to be a blacklist, so yeah, someone was spreading things around about me. So what could I do? And I asked on the forums for help, and some were helpful thankfully, but at the same time got someone sort of dismissing it, saying, why are you playing this? Why are you doing it then? So I want the bloody mount. I'm not here for the fucking savagery, I'm here for the mount. And I wish there was like an alternative, which is something that Final Fantasy XIV does well at some points, but it doesn't always do it, and that's where it sucks. I would have rather done 99 runs with 9 to 12 circles, obviously it's raid tier, than this. It was unsynced as well, so it wasn't even much of a challenge for damage and survivability, so it doesn't make sense. But yeah, this is why I end up being more casual rather than not hardcore. Even in real life it sort of affects me too, because I don't really like fast-paced things, I don't do performative things. I don't like showing off anything really, and it includes my hobbies as well. I don't really like to flaunt it and say like, yeah, I'm good at this, I did this, and it's not good. In fact, there's been a lot of cases where, not in real life, but online, where I've shared it, I've got mixed reactions in real life technically. No negatives, but people are a bit like on the fence, but you can tell by the response. But online, people have been saying, my stuff is shit, it's not worth posting, it's not why you're even bothering. I've had all sorts of things said about both my artwork and music, and it doesn't really affect me because I know that I'm only doing what's within my capabilities, but it's not my problem if people can't understand that. Especially when I have an explanation for it in the description of every fucking video and every post I make, or most posts anyway, not everyone. Even then I can only do what I'm built for. That's it really. It's the same as if I was born with one hat. I can only do what I can do with one hat. I've just got the handicaps that are associated with my mental health, with my physical health, where it does exist. I'm pretty sure I have some form of arthritis because I keep dropping things randomly that shouldn't be dropping. But yeah, it does create complications. It's a miracle I can even fucking do these things to begin with. That's why I end up being more reserved and not really talkative as well as my autism. I was always quiet in school, I was always told I was like a golden kid in a sense, like well behaved, that's what I mean by that. Yeah, like it's just so many different things that play on my mind in that sense. I do make the rounds, I guess. I'm not sure what to add either, but I guess that's it for this video discussion. It's just an explanation into why I moved more into casual games rather than hardcore games, and even try to orient myself in games like this into more casual. Yeah, I don't even know what to add or explain anymore. So I've pretty much covered everything here, but I don't think it's really something people can disagree with, and really the thing to sell the debates is have both. Have a casual and a hardcore experience. make sure that both can do it and do it accessibly. I think that's really important. It's like when a game has a difficulty system, allow it to have difficulty settings. In fact, one of my critiques of Pokemon is that even though you can do it pretty well casually, I do wish there was a difficulty system, and one that especially incorporated things that Pokemon fans love. Like, I might want just a casual story experience, but others might want the Nuzlocke. What's the problem with that? Anyway, that's besides the point. It's sort of related though, so I better move on. Obviously, thanks for watching. That's not anything to watch. I forgot to mention I wasn't doing any sort of fancy editing. I just want to explain my experience and why I became more casual. Again, a lot of it sum up depression, autism. Of what I think is depression, I think it's actually autistic burnout. I think it's an easy mistake to make though. But I also just get really bad with behaviour and everything. I get shot down, I get meltdowns. I just can't do anything too difficult, otherwise it completely kills me. It's really fucking straining and pressure. I don't know how to explain it. I've tried on and off, and that's been the result every time, so yeah, that's why. Anyway, I felt like sharing that because hopefully I might help game developers, might help even players as well. But honestly, I do recommend people try a casual experience because it can end up being the best thing you do. I'm not even joking. The moment I switched from a more hardcore competitive game to a casual game, like Overwatch to WoW, or WoW to what's the other one? Genshin Impact to an extent, or Genshin to Deep Rock. Like Deep Rock Galactic is a first-person shooter experience you'll never forget. Trust me, and always play the multiplayer. That's an important thing because the multiplayer is where it's most peak. It's honestly one of the best games of all time. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you on another time.